This week is your last chance to buy low in fantasy baseball before the first half comes to an end. And you know that in a lot of leagues, the trade deadline isn't that long afterwards. So, really, you need to start moving here if you want to buy low. And if you find yourself heading into the break, maybe not on top of the standings, you're going to have to take some chances. So, here we go. Let's start with a relatively safe buy low, if you will. Jazz Chisholm has been hitting the ball pretty well, but has he really lived up to expectations in fantasy this year? Based on where he was drafted, where he was ranked, it doesn't look like it. Now, we know that lately he's been dealing with some shoulder issues, which is why he's now officially on the move back to second base, right? Third base just wasn't cutting it for him, because the arm, that's when he said that it was bothering him when he had to make those throws. And so he can play the field and he's hitting just fine. Obviously, it's not bothering him at the plate, but moving to second base, which makes more sense anyways. I mean, this guy's played everywhere. I came up as a shortstop, then became an outfielder, second, third, wherever, which is nice for fantasy because you can put him at second, third, or outfield this year in your fantasy league. But this is good for him because not just does it mean that he'll have a little less worry about the arm itself and, maybe having any issues injury wise, hopefully nothing flares up. But you know what? He won't have to think about it. Second base, just a little bit easier defensively. He's more comfortable there because he's played more games there at second base. So he's missed a few games here and there, but besides this, maybe alleviating some of the injury concerns, why is he a buy low? He's hit pretty well, actually. In fact, June was his best month. He hit 318 in that month. And so far in July, not too bad, hitting 273. Power is still there. But I know if you got Jazz and you drafted him high, you're like, where are the steals? Only 10 stolen bases on the season so far. If you want to know whether this is related to him being on the Yankees itself, sort of, but not really. Obviously the Marlins are a team that ran a lot the last couple of years, and he stole plenty with Miami, but he actually stole more on a per game basis once he moved to the Yankees the second half of last year. And the Yankees, although they still don't steal as much as the Marlins or most other teams, they're actually stealing, or at least attempting more steals this season than they did last season. They're right now tied for 14th, so kind of middle of the pack here in terms of running opportunities. So that's not exactly what's hampering Jazz. I think it's just the fact that he's been in and out of the lineup, so frequently he's trying to focus more on defense here. There's some inconsistency. There's nothing physically wrong with his legs. He should be able to steal more. As far as the batting average, it's the same. I mean, what you got, what you're going to get from him. It's not like he's getting on base less. I think that we should see an uptick in stolen base attempts the second half for Jazz. And also, it doesn't hurt that if you think about his motivation, the Yankees making the playoffs, that's like a given here. He's arbitration eligible. And so, he's got something to play for here, right? And it's money. So Jazz hasn't been bad, but again, it's all relative to expectation here. You expect a guy who's going to get you a lot more in the steals department and maybe just more overall and a little less frustration being in and out of the lineup. And I think that in the second half, he'll do that. All right, now let's actually roll the dice. And, honestly, some of you might not even need to try to buy Royce Lewis. You can just pick him off the waiver wire. I was sort of shocked to see that he's not even half owned across Yahoo leagues and ESPN. He's basically almost isn't owned anywhere. And I get it. I mean, right now hitting 215 on the season, all of 2 home runs. But let's face it, what's the thing with Royce Lewis? It's the fact that the dude cannot stay healthy for more than a couple weeks at a time. So let's just come out and say it. If you're going to take a chance having Royce Lewis on your roster, you're also taking the chance that he stays healthy. So that's number one. Get that out of the way. You know this, right? It could happen at any time. It doesn't even matter what part of the body it is, right? He finds a different one every month. So assuming he actually plays for most of the second half of the season, he's been actually one of the biggest underachievers relative to X stats. That 215 batting average, I told you, yeah, that's not very palatable. But his actual expected batting average is higher. And, in terms of expected slugging, where you look at the lack of power that he's giving you, out of all hitters that have at least 100 balls in play, only Corey Seager and Luis Torrens, of all players, are bigger underachievers in terms of expected slugging. And while it doesn't feel like he's, getting hot or anything, his rolling ex-WOBA is showing a marked increase. So here's hoping that he takes those couple of days off during the All-Star break, to actually physically recover, mentally recover, and just get better. Now, it's hard to buy low on any relatively good pitchers these days, but if there's a candidate that sticks out to me, it's Tanner Bybee of Cleveland. Anytime you have a pretty good pitcher who's coming off a couple of rough starts, it always opens a window, right? Because someone starts to panic. What's wrong with this guy? Can I trust him? Can I drop him? So with Bybee, we've seen this before. He had a rough patch earlier in the year. People panicked. You know what? He settled down. But now, again, we're halfway through the season, and his season numbers aren't exactly what you were hoping for. And this is a guy who's been not exactly improving as the past couple seasons have gone on. From a 2.98 ERA as a rookie, 3.47 last year, now up to 4.35, and the whip is a 1.23. But I think the most alarming thing here is the strikeout rate down to 20.7%. It's a big drop from last year's 26.3%, and that's supported by a 9.6% swinging strike rate. So what's going on here? Why is Bybee actually getting worse compared to last season? I think I know the difference here. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that things will actually improve in the second half, but I think they might once he figures it out because he's working on his pitch mix. He's actually attacking hitters very differently than he did last year. In 2024, he clearly led with a four-seamer, his most frequent pitch. This is normal. 43% of the time he threw it. This year, he's only throwing that fastball 27% of the time because he's got a sweeper that's gone from 6% usage up to 19%. And here it is, a brand new sinker that he didn't throw at all last year, and he's using it 17% of the time this season. Now, that sinker hasn't been great, and that's the thing. You got a new pitch, and batters are hitting 287 off of it, and the whiff rate on that is pretty low, 11.6%. This is why the strikeout rate has declined, right? Just makes sense here. But it should be better so that sinker, you kind of trade off some swing and miss for hopefully some soft contact. It hasn't exactly gone the way he's wanted yet, but the XBA on that sinker is a 228. So we could see some better results. And also, again, this is a guy who's now throwing this pitch frequently for the first time. It just takes a little bit of, let's say experience, some more outings before he gets used to it, attacking hitters in a certain sequence. So again, I'll say there's no guarantee that he gets it all figured out, but at the same time, it's not like he's been so bad this season. These last couple of starts, it really is what put a lot of people off. And keep in mind, those last two starts were road games against the Astros and the Cubs. Not exactly an easy schedule. I really like Cleveland's schedule right after the All-Star break because they get the A's, the Orioles, the Royals, the Rockies, and the Twins, some of the lesser offenses in all of baseball. And hell, you want to go further? Okay, they get 3 games at the Mets, but then the White Sox, the Marlins, the Braves, who are like 23rd offensively, the Diamondbacks, who might sell off half their team, the Rangers. I'm probably going to be buying low on quite a few Guardians pitchers if I can. Now, just a few days ago on the cut list, I told you just ditch JT Realmuto, but don't do it with Sal Perez. I'm still going to be optimistic here. You know what? Let's just go all the way and say buy low on Sal Perez. I'm not just saying that because he homered the past couple of days, because, this regression, positive regression, there is such a thing. It's expected. I already said he's been underachieving big time on his XBA, on his X slugging. And we know Sal, right? I mean, come on, Salvi's got to turn it around at some point. He just hasn't had that 1 month that he usually has where he goes crazy and binges on home runs. And I don't know if July is going to be it, but I just got to figure he's going to do it. And to some extent, maybe he's already started over the past 2 weeks, 11 RBIs. And that's one thing I also said that, despite the low batting average and, you want more homers from Perez, but the RBI total has been pretty solid, especially at the catcher position. So even if he doesn't jump all the way up, 40 points to meet that expected batting average, it'll go up. The homers, that's what you're looking for. The Royals' offense in general also big time underachieving. Caglione, I know, I get it. You got to drop him at this point, right? Everyone's dropped him. He's actually a huge underachiever. I really feel like there might be some point where he and this whole offense just all of a sudden catches fire. And then look, if you're just down, really far down in the standings, you need to take a big gamble. Let's go for it. Wyatt Langford. Let's hope he just breaks out completely in the second half. kind of like he did last year. It seems like 2 years in a row he was just way overdrafted, right? Hopes were far too high for him. I don't know. I don't think so. Obviously, the results haven't been good. He's not giving you what you wanted, but the talent is there. I mean, the situation is there. He's batting second. This whole Rangers offense, of course, has been massively disappointing. But look, Corey Seager is now red hot, and they're still making some moves here. Wyatt Langford just needs to stay healthy and get consistent at the plate. But remember, he actually started out the season pretty well. By the end of April, he was hitting 300. And then, a little bit of a cold spell and the injuries. You know the rest of the story. It is actually possible. This isn't just me being blindly optimistic. Oh, he did it last September. Of course he could. We know that this could be one of the most talented players in all of fantasy. So I cannot tell you it's going to happen. But look, if you need to take a chance, there's no player with more upside that you could buy low on right now than Wyatt Langford. If you didn't catch that cut list video that I just mentioned, well, you can get it right here.